Hello, everyone. Today I am picking up from last week, and so we're going to be doing some character turnarounds. Last week I had started I think, more finalized sketches, and then I told you I was going to start on the colors, but it, um, it turned out that while I was coloring it, I realized it's taking a little bit longer than I thought. And so I decided, why not complete the last two live? And if there's time, we'll see what else we can do. Maybe we can start a new character for this story. And so hello, this is Shalene right here. I'm an illustrator, a professional illustrator, and I illustrate children's books, murals. I do everything in between. And so I'm on a journey right now putting together my children's book portfolio. And hey, Avian, it's good to see you. I'm putting together my children's book portfolio and revamping it and putting everything where it should be, filling it with pieces that I want to see and with art that's updated, art that I personally feel passionate about. And so that's pretty much what we're doing today, this Friday. I'm super excited to pick up from where I left off. I like where my character's going. She's so adorable and she inspires me, and that's the goal. Making art that inspires you, making art that you're proud of, something that we can see building on and seeing ourselves in. To be honest, I did not do that the last time I created my portfolio. I had an idea and I was proud of my skills, but I didn't feel totally connected to the work I was doing because I was so focused on trying to get the portfolio done. I didn't take my time. And so this portfolio, so far, the pieces that I've made, I am absolutely in love with, and I'm really happy to find myself in a position where I am not sacrificing my quality and still being able to say, hey, I'm taking as much time as I need to do this. And even if it's 1 to 2 hours every week, it's worth it. And you guys are seeing the process. So why don't we continue from there? So definitely, Aviance, this is your sign to work on your art right now because I came on a little late and but I still made it. I still made it. And so I created the drafts for this. This one's not totally done, but because it takes so long to do and I'm still trying to figure out how I want it to be colored and stuff, I just want to move on to the next one before I lose inspiration. So I'm going to do that today. I'm going to do the side profile, the back profile, and then move on to doing maybe starting a new character depending on the speed that I'm able to commit to. So let's see with that. Actually, my camera's in my drawing site, my drawing line of sight. I have to adjust my setup. So let's get this over. Lift this up. Turn this down. I can see a bit better. I'm definitely very pleased with how things are going. So this is a really good place that I'm finding myself in. I did not want to start coloring this because I knew it would have taken time. It took me a couple practices before I got colors that I liked, that were soft, that were cute, feminine, but she still has like a very boxy, boyish kind of feel to her. So I really like where I ended up so far, and I'm happy to share what I have with you. So let's continue with our next character. So yeah, as you can see, this was the sketch underneath. We're gonna keep going, building from there. While doing these character turnarounds, I have found it's been super important to follow the guidelines that we have in the back. And so, if you can adhere to these guides and really lay the eyes consistently in every profile and every part of the turn, you really will find that your art is being so much more consistent. When I ran into an issue where I felt like the character wasn't looking like how I originally made her on her front. Uh-oh, I think my brush is acting up. Whenever there's an issue, it's easily corrected if you follow the lines, in my opinion, and it speaks for itself. So I actually really like the learning process that's been coming with just committing to doing this. If you really follow the guides, you'll find that you really don't have to guess all the time. You just have to look at what you've done and literally copy what you've done and just do it again. Don't feel like you have to just make it right the next time. Literally just look at what you've done and copy it as best as you can. Hi, Melinda. You're so welcome. I try to show this process as clearly as possible because I know an explanation can only go so far, but actually seeing how it's done step by step can be beneficial. And I'm so happy to know that this is something you are benefiting from. I always thought of what's the best way to show people that you can make a turnaround and actually do it and show your character in different angles. Then I thought maybe it's just best to do it live and show people how to do it. So I'm really thankful that this was able to reach you and help you in this way. The guides really help, especially with keeping the consistency in the character. So, to be honest, no. I learned a lot of this through my own dedication and just studying the people who I love to see. And so I did go to university, like art school for 2 years, but they don't teach you how to draw this. They really don't. They show you how to develop your skill sets and the practice of drawing every day. And I feel like art school is good for that. But the actual process of keeping your characters consistent throughout the different angles, I feel like it's something I've learned over time through picking up little details and trying to keep that consistent with every angle. So, really just learning to copy what you've done and picture it 3D, just being twisted a little bit and moving things over, but maintaining the same guidelines, keeping the eyes in the exact same place, on the same level, the same height. The clothes will be at the same places. I feel like if you can adhere to those specific cues, then the brain will translate that as consistency. Because sometimes it doesn't have to look perfectly correct. It's just being able to tell the brain, like, hey, this looks exactly like the other one. Would it be useful to use a model in C? Can you tell me what you mean by C? But it is helpful to use a model sometimes. I feel like once you know what you're doing, then you may not need it. But if the character you're referencing um, is kind of hard to visualize, then yes, using a model would help. Like for me, I always have, like down here in this left hand corner, in the bottom left hand corner, I do have the model of what she looks like before as I'm drawing the current version. So she's modeling, my previous drawing is modeling for me what I need to do. But I've drawn side profiles enough in my life to build up that experience to know the base level expressions where the nose should fall and things like that. So would it be useful to make a clay model to better grasp how your character looks from different angles? A clay model would be useful if you have the time for it, because I know not everyone does. It wouldn't be convenient in that sense, but it would be useful. I do find that clay models, although helpful, it can create a sense of dependence, and that's not a bad thing. It's just I know not everybody will want to find themselves using a reference for every single thing. And so not every clay model is actually going to be the specific size of the character you're making. So as you can see here, like this character is a child, so I'd have to find a child-sized model, clay model. I'd have to just find like an adult sized, and sometimes the models can be, if you're not using them in a way that's essentially conducive for what you're trying to do, you can get limited in what your visuals will look like. So you still have to develop your skill set of the human body and the character's body that you're trying to draw outside of the model. So as long as you have like the base, as long as you have like the base anatomy, I think you'd be fine. I really think you'd be fine, because a lot of it is repetition and then just studying how to do things and then just studying how to get those details right. So you can totally use the models. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do feel it's also important to know what the basics are, and learn that from the model so that when you don't have the model, you know what you're doing. You're very welcome, Melinda. No problem, because I'm not the greatest multitasker, and I know that, but that's why these streams are here. I take my time, and if I have to pause to get my thought out, it's totally fine. So Avian says, I just have to ask, how did you develop your style over time? I'm struggling big time with inspiration. You know what? I feel like your style is always there. It just takes a little while to notice it. And there comes a point in time where I feel like you kind of fight your style. Your style, for me, how I developed it was I had to just accept that there were certain things I just drew naturally without thinking about it. And for example, I always drew big eyes, but the way I interpret them now in this stage of my life, it looks different than it did 5 years ago. And the style of who you are personally, I find like it's always inside you. It's always there. You just have to pick up on the cues. And then there's also one thing you have to look out for, which is kind of confusing to really grasp, but there's also the skill set limitation. And sometimes your style is there, but it's limited by how much you actually understand anatomy and how you draw. And so you know what you want to draw and how you want it to come out, but because you don't know how to represent those ideas well enough yet, it's actually hard for you to represent the style the way you're picturing it. So what I did actually is I sat down, I opened up my sketchbook, and I tried to see what were the consistent things that were always showing up in my art. I wrote them down on a piece of paper, and I said my art always looks the same. No, these specific characteristics always look the same when it comes to my art. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I just kept that in the back of my mind that these are the things I like to do. And even if I develop my skills and I get better as an illustrator, as a professional, my anatomy gets better, those specific things that I saw in my work don't actually change unless I'm forcing it. So just pay attention to what naturally comes to you as you're drawing and what you naturally just want to have fun doing, because it's the fun things that you enjoy doing. Like if you're drawing an eye and suddenly, like if you're making an eye and you always want to add like a specific curvature and that's just fun to you, and you just have the wing, if you're always drawing a wing on your eyes, some people they always draw like straight eyes like that. And just pay attention to what's fun, pay attention to what kind of sparks that creativity in you, because it's in those things I find that's where your style is, and it's pointing to you to explore that. And it's the minute, if you haven't learned the basics of anatomy yet, I feel like that's going to be a limiting factor, because sometimes your focus on studying anatomy makes you want to make like hyper realistic things. So when you're in your playtime and you're having fun, just look for the specific cues that are pointing you in the direction of this is fun for me and I like doing this over and over and over again. That's what I find like is your style. That's how you develop it, and you just keep pushing it. You just keep having fun until you realize like, wow, this direction, this space is like I'm so comfortable here. That's just what it feels like. That's the best way to describe it, in my opinion, because I can tell when I'm not working in my style, and I can tell when I'm not happy. So when I force myself out of my style, it might look nice, but it's so much work to do it again. It is so much harder. It's hard to repeat it twice because it's not intuitive. And I feel like when you're working in your style, you can draw almost anything and it'll be expressed the same way. It's just a different figure, a different drawing, and that's the best way I would say it. So, also, what do you do when you experience art block? So, I think art block is twofold, in my opinion. Art block to me is kind of like a creativity block, because I illustrate as a career, like every day, and Well, whenever I have a job or a client that I'm working for, I can't I cannot do I can't let art block stop me because my deadlines are there. So what I would say how to get out of art block is to stop giving yourself a reason to stop drawing. And even if it's bad, just accept that it's good enough because it's made. And that's the best way to say it. I compare art block to like burnout. So sometimes we have burnout. Oh, that's the wrong layer. Side profiles are hard. I agree. I don't actually like to do them as much. I compare art block to burnout in the sense that you're so tired and you don't know how to draw what's on your mind. And so you're kind of fighting with yourself to create something that's good enough that you can like, but you know it's in you, but you just can't get it out. And that's what burnout is like. And I feel like that's art block, but you still have to keep drawing through it to get out of it, because if you wait for inspiration it might not come. So the only way to get out of art block for me is to keep drawing and don't wait for the inspiration, because it's usually it doesn't come in my experience. It just doesn't. If I wait for it, it's not. So I draw through it. I make bad art. I submit bad art. And I'm just like, you know what? I have to give myself the grace to say to myself, it's not what I wanted to make, but at least I made the deadline, or at least I created something. And I feel like that's still valuable. I think that's good enough. Hmm. Once you get the core idea of how to do side profiles, I find everything else will make sense. And I stopped thinking about it because it's actually that challenging. But once I learned like the core rules of a side profile and what makes it look accurate, then I stopped worrying about it, because it is challenging, especially when you have a side profile that's not fully on the side. You have a little peep of the other eye, and you have a little bit more of the nostril. Those things they drive me up the wall. I cannot stand drawing those because you have to be so particular, and it takes a lot of mental measuring and finagling and figuring it out. So side profiles, if I can avoid them, I will. I'd rather do two 3/4 and like forever. I would do 3/4 forever if I had to. There's just so you have so much space with a 3/4 turn, but with a side profile, if it's even slightly just slightly turned, it'll be off. And depending on the type of face you're drawing, there are different measurement ideas that you want to adhere to, and then you have to ignore your own stylistic preferences. So I really hear you with the side profiles there. I need to find the right brush for this. The interesting thing about side profiles is once you get the eye placement, the tip of the nose, and the ear right, I find everything else falls into place. I feel those are like the three most important things to look out for. And if you can get that done, you're on the right track. I feel for me, I feel like yes, I'm doing a good thing. Oh, I drew it on the wrong layer. Oh no. I'm just gonna leave that there. I can't go back now. I don't want to. So now that I'm looking at the full picture, it is coming along. I just have to make sure I keep it really soft in the face, keep her cheeks really rounded, and don't go too hard with any straight lines. But so far, it's looking really good, I would say. I have to adjust the hoodie on our side profile. It's not nearly as big as it needs to be for what I drew, and I have to get the hoodie to go over the hair. As you see here, I have the hoodie is actually behind her neck, but I have the hair is in front of the hoodie on the side profile. So that's not really consistent with what I've drawn, and it's causing the sweater to look smaller than what it actually is. And so I need to keep the scale of the hoodie maintained. And so that's what I think I'm going to do now, is make those adjustments, because that's a part of the consistency. It's one of those things that is definitely a preference thing, but I find if you can maintain this, it'll really help with making your character always look like it's the same character in different angles. So I need to fill this and make it a part of the hoodie too, because I'm showing that it's right behind the neck. The hoodie is right behind the neck, so I need to really keep that consistent. So let's make some more room. Let's just erase that. And it should be bigger on this side too. And you will notice that it's actually outside the original sketch line, and I feel like at this point I could erase it if I wanted to, only because I'm seeing things that I didn't originally see when I was sketching the underdrawing. And so if I adhere to those rules, then that's exactly the problem that I have right now, which is the hoodie doesn't look right. So now that I'm seeing it from the top, I have to just make the adjustments where it needs to be. So let's cover that. Yeah, I have to adjust the hoodie on this one too. It's really small. So I'll do that later. I think I have the base down. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start shading. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I need to go lower. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. I know I didn't finish everything the way I wanted to today, but I think I'm gonna end the stream here. I just remembered I had to do something. Came close to an hour, but I'm pretty happy with what I was able to do. This is pretty far. I just did do the hair and the backpack and touch up some details. But I will be back next week for sure. For those of you who are watching on the replay, I'm really happy to say that I'm going to be going live a bit more often now, going into next week if I can. And so what that means is I should be going live on more than one day a week, and I'll have one day where I'm dedicating to doing my portfolio, and the other day I'm just going to be free drawing. And so I'm happy to say that I will also be that simply I'll be going live more often. So I'm happy about that. And I have some updates to give you on that day too. I need to get back into doing more actual YouTube videos that are filmed and edited. And so I thank you, each and every one of you that are watching on the live to this point. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, my social media, you can follow me there at Shalene Wright and contact me through my website or through my agent. And that's pretty much today's stream. Thank you so much for everyone for being here.